My wife said she wasn't moving to that small town for my job. I said I understood. Translation, see you never, Rebecca. The rental house in Millbrook, Maine wasn't much. Peeling paint, creaky floors, a furnace that sounded like it was digesting rocks. But it was mine. All mine. No more listening to Rebecca complain about the thread count of our sheets or how her yoga instructor said our energy was toxic. The only toxic thing in our marriage had been her, but I didn't figure that out until I found Daniel's cologne on our bathroom counter. Daniel. Even his name sounded like a trust fund. I cracked open a beer after my first week at Morrison's hardware store, feet up on the sagging couch, and let the silence wash over me. Beautiful, perfect silence. No Rebecca sighing dramatically because I'd bought the wrong brand of almond milk. No her friends cackling in our living room about their latest spa day while I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for it all. The hardware store job wasn't glamorous. I'd gone from corporate project management to helping old farmers find the right size bolts. But my boss, Eddie Morrison, was a straight shooter who paid fair and didn't care that I'd abandoned my promising career in Boston. The regulars at Murphy's bar down the street had adopted me as their pet city boy, ribbing me about my soft hands and teaching me the local gossip network. In Milbrook, population 3,200, gossip was currency. My phone buzzed. Rebecca. Again. Can we talk? I miss you. I deleted it without responding, just like the previous 15 messages. She'd started texting 2 weeks after I left, right around when she probably realized I wasn't coming back. Before that, she told her friends I was having a pathetic midlife crisis, and that she'd let me get it out of my system. The arrogance was breathtaking. Another text. Brian, please. We can work this out. I took a long pull of beer and stared at my phone. 6 months ago, I would have caved. I would have driven back to Boston, apologized for whatever imaginary crime she'd invented, and resumed my role as her personal ATM and emotional punching bag. But that was before I'd walked in early from a business trip and found her laptop open on the kitchen counter. The messages between her and Daniel were educational, not just the affair, though there was plenty of that, complete with photos I couldn't unsee. No, what really opened my eyes were the messages about me, how I was boring and pathetic, how Daniel made her feel alive in ways I never could, how she was just waiting for the right moment to leave me but wanted to secure her financial future first. That last part was my favorite. Rebecca had never worked a day in our marriage. I'd supported her through 2 failed business ventures, a boutique that lasted 4 months and an online jewelry store that sold exactly 3 pieces, all to her mother. But somehow, I owed her a financial future. I'd screenshotted everything, backed it up in 3 places, and started planning my exit. The job offer in Milbrook had been a lifeline. Small town, decent pay, cheap cost of living. I'd accepted it, packed my essentials, and left Rebecca a note on the kitchen counter. Took the job. Don't wait up. My phone buzzed again. This time, a video file from an unknown number. I almost didn't open it. Almost. But curiosity got the better of me. The video was dark, shaky, someone's phone camera in low light. It took me a second to orient myself. Rebecca's bedroom. Our bedroom, technically, though I'd surrendered any claim to it. Rebecca was there, half-dressed, and so was Daniel. They were arguing. Pathetic that he just left, Daniel was saying, buttoning his shirt. What kind of man abandons his wife? The kind who's too weak to fight for what's his, Rebecca replied, her voice dripping with contempt. God, I wasted 8 years on him. You're better off. We both are. The video cut off. I sat there, beer forgotten, staring at my phone. Someone had sent me this deliberately. Someone wanted me to see it. But who? The number wasn't saved in my contacts. I tried calling it back. Disconnected. My hands were shaking. Not from sadness, not anymore. This was pure, crystalline rage. I'd left quietly. I'd taken the high road. I'd let Rebecca have the condo, most of the furniture, even the car I'd paid for. I'd asked for nothing except my freedom. And this was how she talked about me? This was the story she was telling? I grabbed my keys. The drive to Boston took 2 hours. I spent most of it planning what I'd say, what I'd do. By the time I pulled onto Rebecca's street, my old street, the rage had cooled into something sharper, more focused. Daniel's luxury SUV was parked in my old spot. A BMW X7, midnight blue, probably cost more than I made in a year. The vanity plate read Dandelman, subtle. I parked down the block and waited. The lights in the condo were on. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains, Rebecca and Daniel probably congratulating themselves on how well they'd played me. At midnight, the door opened. Daniel emerged, checking his phone, completely oblivious. He climbed into his precious BMW and drove off. I waited 5 more minutes, then approached the SUV with my keys in hand. The scrape of metal on paint was satisfyingly loud in the quiet street. I dragged my key along the entire driver's side, from headlight to taillight, a deep gouge that would cost thousands to fix. Then I pulled out the note I'd written and tucked it under his windshield wiper. "Enjoy your ride, asshole." B. I was halfway back to my car when I heard heels clicking on pavement. "Brian?" I turned. Nicole stood there, Rebecca's best friend, wrapped in an expensive coat, her expression unreadable. She must have been visiting Rebecca. "Fancy meeting you here," she said, her voice cool and measured. She glanced at Daniel's car, at the fresh scratch gleaming under the streetlight, then back at me. A slow smile spread across her face. "Rough night?" "Just passing through." She stepped closer, her smile widening. "You know, Rebecca's worried about you. She says you're not handling the separation well. Rebecca can worry about herself." "That's cold, Brian, after everything you two built together." Her tone was mocking, like she was in on some private joke. "We didn't build anything. I built it. She decorated it and then burned it down." Nicole's smile didn't waver. "Careful. That sounds almost like a threat." "Just an observation." She studied me for a long moment, her eyes glittering. "You should go back to your little town, Brian. There's nothing for you here anymore." I couldn't agree more. I walked away, feeling her eyes on my back the entire way. When I reached my car, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Nicole was still standing there, phone pressed to her ear, watching me drive away. Something about that smile bothered me. It wasn't surprise or concern. It was knowing. Like she'd expected this, like she'd wanted it. I pushed the thought aside and headed back to Milbrook, my hands still tingling with adrenaline. The first punch had been thrown. Now the real fight could begin. Sheriff Tom Evans called me into the station 3 days later. "Sit down, Mr. Hartley," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. Evans was in his 50s, with the weathered face of someone who'd spent his life in small-town law enforcement. He wasn't hostile, just curious. "Am I under arrest?" "Should you be?" I shrugged. "Depends on what you've heard." Evans leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Got a call from Boston PD. Seems someone vandalized an expensive vehicle registered to a Mr. Daniel Pearson. Security footage shows a car matching your description in the area around the time of the incident. Lots of cars look like mine." "That's true." Evans pulled out a file, flipped it open. "Mr. Pearson also mentioned you might have a grudge against him. Something about your wife?" "Ex-wife. Soon, anyway." He says you're unstable. Dangerous, even." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Dangerous? I manage a hardware store. The most dangerous thing I do is climb ladders to reach the top shelf." Evans cracked a smile. "Fair point. Still, vandalism is vandalism." "If I were going to vandalize something, Sheriff, I'd be smarter about it. I'd wear gloves, I'd avoid security cameras. I certainly wouldn't leave a signed note." "Also fair." Evans closed the file. "Look, Mr. Hartley. Brian, I'm not interested in dragging you through the system over some scratched paint. But I am interested in keeping the peace. Whatever's going on between you and these Boston folks, keep it out of Milbrook. We're a quiet town. We like it that way." "Understood." "Good." He stood, extending his hand. "Welcome to town, by the way. Eddie Morrison says you're a hard worker. That counts for a lot around here." I shook his hand and left, feeling oddly reassured. Evans wasn't trying to railroad me. He just wanted to make sure I wasn't bringing big city drama to his doorstep. Too late for that. Rebecca's messages escalated after the car incident. Love bombing gave way to guilt tripping, which gave way to threats. "You're going to regret this. I'll take you for everything in the divorce. My lawyer says I'm entitled to half your pension." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I started gathering information. The regulars at Murphy's bar were a goldmine. Old Joe, who'd lived in Milbrook his entire 73 years, knew someone who knew someone in Boston. Within a week, I had Daniel's business details: where he worked, what he did, who his clients were. Daniel was a commercial real estate broker. Successful by all accounts, but not exactly squeaky clean. He had a reputation for cutting corners, making promises he couldn't keep, and leaving his partners holding the bag when deals went south. More importantly, he had a wife. Her name was Patricia. They'd been married for 12 years. She had no idea about Rebecca. I filed that information away for later. Nicole called me on a Thursday evening. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. "Brian, we need to talk." "Do we?" "Rebecca is a mess. She's not eating, not sleeping. She's devastated. That's unfortunate. Don't be cruel. She made a mistake, but she still loves you. I laughed. Nicole, I've heard the way she talks about me. Love isn't the word I'd use. There was a pause. What do you want, Brian? Money? The condo? Just tell me what it'll take to make this go away. Why do you care? Because Rebecca is my best friend. I don't want to see her suffer. Funny. I suffered for months while she was screwing Daniel, and nobody seemed concerned about that. That's not fair. You know what's not fair, Nicole? Being called pathetic by the woman I supported for 8 years, being told I'm too weak to fight for what's mine, having my entire marriage turned into a joke behind my back. Another pause. When Nicole spoke again, her voice was ice cold. You need to move on, Brian, for your own good. I appreciate the advice. I'm serious. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Am I? Or am I just refusing to roll over and play dead? She hung up without responding. I sat there, phone in hand, replaying the conversation. Nicole's concern for Rebecca felt performative, like she was reading from a script. And that comment, for your own good, sounded less like advice and more like a warning. I decided to do some digging into Nicole, too. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Nicole was a real estate agent, just like Daniel. In fact, they'd worked together on several deals over the years. Their professional relationship was well documented. Photos at industry events, joint listings, glowing testimonials on each other's websites. But there was something else. 5 years ago, Nicole had lost her real estate license for 6 months due to ethics violations. The details were vague, but the timing was interesting. It coincided with a deal I'd helped investigate when I was still in corporate project management, a deal where Nicole had misrepresented property values to secure financing, a deal that had collapsed spectacularly, costing investors millions. I'd been the one who'd uncovered the discrepancies. I'd reported them to the state licensing board. I'd thought I was doing the right thing. Nicole had blamed me publicly, calling me a corporate stooge who didn't understand how real estate worked. But she'd been sanctioned anyway, and her reputation had taken a hit. I'd forgotten about it. Apparently, Nicole hadn't. The pieces were starting to come together. Nicole hadn't just been Rebecca's friend, she'd been the architect of this entire mess. She'd introduced Rebecca to Daniel, she'd encouraged the affair, she'd probably even sent me that video, knowing it would push me over the edge. This wasn't about Rebecca's happiness. This was about revenge. I started recording every conversation, saving every text, documenting every interaction. If Nicole wanted a war, I'd give her one, but I'd fight smart. 2 weeks later, I made my move. Daniel's office was in a sleek high-rise in downtown Boston. I waited until after hours, then left a package at the front desk addressed to his boss. Inside was a folder containing printed copies of Daniel's messages with Rebecca, the ones where he bragged about his affair, made jokes about his wife, and admitted to using company resources for personal trips. Nothing illegal, just embarrassing. I also left flyers around the building, taped to bathroom stalls and break room walls. Ask Daniel Pearson about his special deliveries to Beacon Hill. Childish? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Within 48 hours, Daniel was called into a meeting with HR. Within 72 hours, he was suspended pending an investigation into his conduct. Rebecca's social media posts started appearing around the same time. Photos of her looking sad and vulnerable, captions about betrayal and moving forward. She didn't name me, but the implication was clear. I was the villain in this story. The comments were predictable. Her friends rallied around her, calling me every name in the book. A few people who knew me tried to defend me, but they were drowned out. I didn't respond. Instead, I waited. Nicole showed up in Milbrook on a Saturday morning. I was at Morrison's Hardware, restocking shelves, when she walked in. She looked out of place in her designer clothes and heels, like a peacock in a chicken coop. Brian, we need to talk. I'm working. This won't take long. She glanced around, lowering her voice. What you did to Daniel was out of line. What I did? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb. The flyers, the package, it has your fingerprints all over it. Prove it. Her jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. Daniel has resources, connections. He can make your life very difficult. He's already sleeping with my wife. How much more difficult can it get? You don't understand what you're dealing with. Then explain it to me, Nicole. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you and Daniel have been playing games with my life, and now you're upset that I'm playing back. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Walk away, Brian. Take the divorce, take your little hardware store job, and walk away. If you don't, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are." "And what kind of man is that?" "The kind who stalks his ex-wife. The kind who vandalizes property. The kind who can't let go." I smiled. "That's a good story, Nicole. Very convincing. There's just one problem." "What's that?" I pulled out my phone and played the recording of our conversation. Her face went pale. "You recorded me?" Maine is a one-party consent state. I can record any conversation I'm part of. "And this conversation? It's very interesting. Sounds almost like you're threatening me." "You son of a..." "Careful, still recording." She turned and walked out, heels clicking furiously on the linoleum floor. Eddie Morrison emerged from the back room, grinning. That was one angry lady. "Yeah, she's got a temper." "Friend of yours?" "Not anymore." Eddie chuckled and went back to work, leaving me alone with my thoughts. Nicole had just confirmed everything I'd suspected. She was pulling the strings. She'd orchestrated this whole mess as payback for the real estate scandal. Rebecca and Daniel were just her pawns. But now she knew I was onto her, which meant she'd escalate. I needed to be ready. The breaking point came at Daniel's birthday party. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I knew about it thanks to Rebecca's very public social media posts. Daniel was turning 40, and Rebecca had organized a lavish celebration at his luxury condo, the same condo he shared with his wife Patricia, who was conveniently out of town visiting her sister. The hypocrisy was staggering. I drove to Boston that evening with a simple plan: confront them publicly, expose their lies, and walk away with my dignity intact. No property damage this time, no vandalism, just the truth, delivered in front of their friends. The party was in full swing when I arrived. The building's security tried to stop me, but I dressed well, suit and tie, clean-shaven, looking every bit like I belonged. I told them I was Daniel's business partner, and they waved me through. The condo was packed with people I didn't know. Real estate brokers, corporate types, Rebecca's yoga friends. Everyone was drinking expensive wine and pretending to care about Daniel's milestone birthday. I found them on the balcony. Rebecca was draped over Daniel like a shawl, laughing at something he'd said. Nicole stood nearby, champagne in hand, scanning the crowd like a sentinel. She saw me first. Her expression shifted from surprise to alarm to cold fury in the span of 2 seconds. "Brian," she said loudly, cutting through the ambient noise. "What are you doing here?" The balcony went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me. Rebecca's face went white. "Brian? Oh my God, what?" "Relax," I said, holding up my hands. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to wish Daniel a happy birthday. 40's a big one, right?" Daniel stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "You need to leave, now." "In a minute. First, I have a gift." I pulled out my phone and connected it to the condo's Bluetooth speaker system. Daniel had always been careless about his passwords. "Everyone, if I could have your attention for just a moment." "Brian, don't..." Nicole started, but it was too late. I hit play. The audio was crystal clear. Rebecca and Daniel's voices filled the room, their conversation from that video playing for everyone to hear. Pathetic that he just left. What kind of man abandons his wife? The kind who's too weak to fight for what's his. God, I wasted 8 years on him. The crowd was silent, all eyes on Rebecca. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. I switched to the next recording. Daniel's voice this time, from a conversation with a colleague. "Patricia doesn't know about Rebecca. Why would I tell her? I've got the best of both worlds, a wife who manages my life and a girlfriend who makes it interesting." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Patricia is his wife." I played one more clip. Nicole's voice, cold and calculating, from a conversation she'd had with Rebecca, one I'd recorded when I'd bugged Rebecca's condo during one of my late-night visits. "Brian ruined my career. He deserves to suffer. You and Daniel are just the tools to make that happen." Rebecca's face crumpled. "Nicole, what is he talking about?" Nicole's composure finally cracked. "Turn that off." "Why? Don't you want everyone to know the truth? That you've been using Rebecca to get back at me? That you manipulated her into having an affair just so you could watch me suffer?" "You're insane," Nicole hissed. "Am I? Or am I just the only one willing to say what everyone's thinking?" I looked around the room, at the shocked faces, the whispered conversations. Daniel's a cheater. Rebecca's a liar. And Nicole? She's the puppet master pulling all the strings. Daniel lunged at me. I'd been expecting it. I sidestepped, and he stumbled forward, crashing into a table laden with champagne glasses. The glasses shattered, champagne spraying everywhere. Sheriff Evans appeared in the doorway. He must have been working security for the party. That's enough. Agreed, I said, pocketing my phone. I'm done here. As I walked out, I heard Rebecca sobbing, Nicole shouting, Daniel swearing. The party was over. Sheriff Evans followed me to the elevator. You've got a flair for the dramatic, Mr. Hartley. Just setting the record straight. Technically you could be charged with harassment. Trespassing, maybe. Technically, but you won't charge me. Why's that? Because everything I played was true, and because you're curious to see how this ends. Evans smiled. You're not wrong. But Brian, this is your last warning. Whatever you're planning next, make sure it's legal. Always do, Sheriff. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. By morning, Rebecca's social media was flooded with comments calling her a hypocrite. Daniel's wife Patricia filed for separation after seeing the recordings. Someone at the party had live-streamed the whole thing. Nicole's real estate firm quietly let her go after clients started asking uncomfortable questions about her ethics. Rebecca tried calling me, texting me, even showing up at Morrison's Hardware. I refused to engage. She'd made her choices. Now she could live with the consequences. But Nicole wasn't done. She sent me a message from a burner phone. You think you've won? You've just made everything worse. Walk away now, or I'll destroy you. I didn't respond. Instead, I set a trap. I sent Nicole a fake message pretending to be Daniel, asking her to meet at the old train depot on the outskirts of Milbrook. I told her we needed to discuss damage control and that Rebecca couldn't know. Nicole took the bait. The train depot had been abandoned for decades, a rusting monument to Milbrook's industrial past. It was the perfect setting for a final confrontation. Isolated, atmospheric, and equipped with excellent acoustics. I arrived early and set up wireless speakers around the depot, connected to my phone. I also set up a camera to live stream everything to a private YouTube channel, just in case. Nicole showed up at dusk, picking her way across the gravel in impractical heels. She looked around, suspicious. Daniel? Not quite, I said, stepping out from behind a support beam. She spun around, eyes narrowing. You. Me. Where's Daniel? Probably drowning his sorrows somewhere. I didn't actually invite him. That was just to get you here. You're insane. So you keep saying, but I'm not the one who orchestrated an affair to ruin someone's life. Nicole's expression hardened. You ruined my life first. You cost me my license, my reputation, everything I'd worked for. You cost yourself those things when you committed fraud. I was trying to help people. You didn't understand. I understood perfectly. You lied to investors to line your own pockets. And when you got caught, you blamed me instead of taking responsibility. You were always so self-righteous, she spat. So sure you were right. Well, look where that got you. Your wife hates you. Your friends abandoned you. You're alone. Am I? Or did you just remove the people who were never really on my side to begin with? I pulled out my phone and hit play. The speakers crackled to life, broadcasting every conversation Nicole had ever had about me, with Rebecca, with Daniel, with mutual friends. Her voice filled the depot, cold and venomous, plotting my downfall in meticulous detail. Nicole's face went pale. Where did you get those? You'd be surprised what people say when they think no one's listening. You bugged my phone? Your phone? No. Rebecca's condo? Yes. Turns out you two had a lot of interesting conversations there. Nicole lunged at me, but I was ready. I grabbed her wrist and twisted, forcing her to her knees. Don't. You can't do this, she gasped. It's illegal. Actually, it's not. I recorded conversations in a space I still legally had access to. The condo is in my name, remember? Rebecca never changed the locks. And as for the rest, well, you've been very careless about where you have your private conversations. I released her and stepped back. Here's what's going to happen, Nicole. You're going to leave me alone. You're going to leave Rebecca alone. You're going to disappear from our lives completely. If you don't, I'll release every recording I have to the state licensing board, your former employer, and anyone else who might be interested. You're bluffing. Try me. We stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Nicole stood, brushing gravel from her knees. You haven't won, Brian. You've just made yourself a target. I'll take my chances. She walked away, limping slightly on her broken heel. I watched until she disappeared into the twilight, then turned off the speakers and packed up my equipment. Sheriff Evans was waiting by my car when I got back. Eventful evening? He asked. Just tying up loose ends. Someone reported suspicious activity at the old depot. I came to check it out, but I didn't see anything worth investigating. Appreciate that, Sheriff. Don't mention it. Just remember what I said. Keep it legal. Always. He tipped his hat and drove off, leaving me alone in the parking lot. I climbed into my car and headed back to Milbrook, feeling lighter than I had in months. The war wasn't over. Nicole would lick her wounds and probably try something else eventually. But for now, I'd won. And that was enough. 3 months later, Milbrook held its annual Founders' Day festival. The whole town turned out. Vendors selling crafts, kids running around with cotton candy, a live band playing classic rock covers on a makeshift stage in the town square. I'd been helping Eddie set up the hardware store's booth when Sheriff Evans found me. "Got a minute?" he asked. "Sure, what's up?" "Your ex-wife and her friends are in town. Thought you should know." My stomach dropped. "Why are they here?" "Apparently Rebecca's trying to reconcile. She's been asking around about you, telling people you two are working things out." "We're not." "Figured as much. Just wanted to give you a heads up." I found Rebecca near the bandstand, surrounded by a small crowd. She was dressed casually, jeans and a sweater, but she still looked out of place, like a magazine cutout pasted into a normal photograph. Nicole was with her. So was Daniel. "Brian!" Rebecca called out when she saw me. She rushed over, arms outstretched, but I stepped back. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see you, to talk. I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we had. We don't have anything, Rebecca. We're getting divorced. But we don't have to. We can fix this. I made mistakes, I know that. But I still love you." The crowd was watching now, drawn by the drama. I saw Eddie and the bar regulars, Sheriff Evans, even the mayor. "You don't love me," I said quietly. "You never did. You loved what I provided, the money, the stability, the status. But me? You thought I was pathetic. Weak, remember?" Rebecca's face crumpled. I was angry. I didn't mean... "Yes, you did. And that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. But don't come here and pretend we can go back to how things were. We can't. I don't want to." Nicole stepped forward. "Brian, be reasonable. Rebecca's trying to make amends. The least you can do is hear her out." "Why? So you can manipulate us both again?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't." I pulled out my phone and connected to the festival's PA system. Eddie had given me the password earlier. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for just a moment." "Brian, don't," Nicole warned. "Why not? You wanted me to suffer publicly. Seems only fair I return the favor." I played the recordings. All of them. Rebecca and Daniel's affair, Nicole's confession about orchestrating everything, Daniel's jokes about his wife, every ugly, manipulative, cruel thing they'd said about me and each other. The crowd was silent, transfixed. When the recordings ended, I looked at Rebecca. "You wanted to talk? Fine. Here's what I have to say. I spent 8 years trying to make you happy. I worked myself to exhaustion. I sacrificed my own dreams to support yours. And you repaid me by cheating, lying, and mocking me behind my back. So no, Rebecca, we're not working things out. We're done. Permanently." Rebecca was sobbing now, mascara streaming down her face. Daniel looked like he wanted to punch me but was too afraid of the crowd's reaction. Nicole's expression was pure venom. "You're going to regret this," Nicole hissed. "I regret a lot of things, Nicole, but standing up for myself isn't one of them." Sheriff Evans stepped forward. "I think it's time for you folks to leave." "We're not doing anything illegal," Daniel protested. "Maybe not, but you're disturbing the peace. So either you leave voluntarily or I'll escort you out. Your choice." They left. Rebecca was still crying, Nicole was still glaring, and Daniel was muttering threats under his breath. But they left. The crowd erupted in applause. Eddie clapped me on the back. "Hell of a speech, Brian." "Thanks." "You okay?" "Yeah, I think I am." The festival continued. I worked the hardware store booth, helped judge the pie contest, and even danced with one of the waitresses from Murphy's bar. It felt good, normal, like I was finally part of something real. As the sun set and the band played their final song, I stood at the edge of the town square and looked around. Milbrook wasn't perfect. It was small and gossipy and sometimes frustrating. But it was honest. People here didn't pretend to be something they weren't. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You win. I'm done." Nicole. Finally admitting defeat. I deleted the message and pocketed my phone. They'd called me a villain. They'd tried to destroy me. But in the end, I'd done something they never expected. I'd built a new life without them. And that was the best revenge of all.